You know what time it is? It's time to hang out with Mr. Coop. With Mr. Cooper, with Mr. Cooper, with Mr. Cooper. Get the latest scoop from Mr. Cooper, from Mr. Cooper, from Mr. Cooper. Hang with Mr. Coop, with Mr. Cooper, with Mr. Cooper, with Mr. Cooper. Get the latest scoop from Mr. Cooper, from Mr. Cooper. Yeah.
Welcome to the Big Scoop with Coop. Of course, I'm your host, Coop. Big shout outs to you that's listening to this episode right now on whatever major streaming platform that you're on right now. Also, if you want to catch the video version of this show, you can in so many different ways. You can go to youtube.com/The Big Scoop with Coop. Make sure you click like and subscribe so you don't miss one episode of the Big Scoop with Coop. Also, make sure you check out the website, thebigscoopwithcoop.com, where you can catch episodes from season 1 all the way up to now. Also, if you're a social media person, that's right, you can find these shows on social media. Facebook.com/The Big Scoop with Coop. On Instagram at Big Scoop with Coop. And that's right, I'm on TikTok. I am on TikTok, people. Just look up The Big Scoop with Coop. And I guarantee you will not miss one episode of The Big Scoop with Coop. All right, people. Enough about me. Today's guest, if you watch USA on Friday nights, she had you up all night. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I have Rhonda Shear from Up All Night, the host of Up All Night. She's doing big things. She's rebooting Up All Night also. So she's going to talk about her career, Up All Night, and more. So sit back and relax and enjoy this episode of The Big Scoop with Coop with Rhonda Shear. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Coop. Thanks. And I love that you said up all night. You do it much better than most of my guys, I have to tell you. It's because you started young before your voice changed watching the show. So that's why you have a better vision of it.
Of course. I'm surprised my deep voice can get that way, but you was the master of doing it, and I'm not going to take that from you. So, Rhonda, how is your day going so far?
It is so good. As you probably know from my publicist, that we have rebooted the show, and I wasn't looking for this at this point in my life, although I've always kept my toe into show business and stand-up comedy. But things are so good. Actually, on Thursday and Friday of this week, we shoot our 3rd and 4th installment, and then we go shooting Up All Night every other week into as January rolls around. So we are back in production.
That is awesome. That's what I'm talking about. I'm in North Carolina right now, and the weather's starting to get cold, and I can't stand this season. I'm not gonna lie to you, Rhonda. I'm a summer spring person, even though I have allergies a lot, but still that's my weather. But guess what? I'm toughing through it, and I'm loving every moment of it. So, yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's so funny that you're saying that about the weather, because I'm here in St. Petersburg, Tampa Bay area. Right now I'm in Tampa. Our studios are in St. Petersburg. And we woke up and it was 38 degrees, which is unheard of in Florida. No. But we have a home in Highlands, North Carolina, my husband and I. And we go up there every few months and spend a few weeks there. It is my happy place. I never knew this girl was in me. I'm a city girl. I'm from New Orleans. I lived in LA. I love Vegas. But I get up there to the mountains and I'm like, this is amazing. And it snowed today. I am so mad because it was a big snow this morning. It was 16 degrees this morning there. And it was a big snow. And I'm like, it's going to melt before we go there. We're going to go back for Thanksgiving and Christmas, then spend the rest of it here, because we go back into production. But anyway, I like little bits and pieces of the snow, but you're right, not all the time.
I feel you on that one, Ron. I definitely feel you. Big shout out to everybody that's in Florida right now. I can't believe you guys are getting cold weather. That's kind of crazy to me, but hey, it's happening. It's happening. Now, Rhonda, for the people that's getting introduced to you for the first time, when did you first realize that you wanted to get into the entertainment industry?
Really young. So I'm from New Orleans, and I did the pageant thing as Miss Louisiana, but I was a dancer, like a tap dancing and ballet and all those things. I always wanted to dance my whole life. I wanted to be a choreographer. At least that's what I thought at a very young age. But through that world and dancing and then the pageants, I got into public speaking and making speeches in front of people. So then I decided I wanted to go into broadcasting in that career. So, or acting, broadcasting. I didn't think I was going to leave New Orleans because I was a mama and daddy's girl. And so I majored in communications in college and then did a lot of theater down there and commercials. And as Miss Louisiana, I was sent out to Hollywood to represent the state, but also to represent the pageant for a jewelry line that sponsored the pageant on national TV. So they chose me to go. It could have been any of the girls from the pageant, but somehow Miss Louisiana got chosen. And I'm in Hollywood doing this advertising and these photographs for this jewelry line. And the husband was the publicist for the storyline, and the wife was the casting director for Happy Days. So it was a lovely husband and wife. And I'm 19 at the time, and the woman, Pat was her name. She said, we're casting a Christmas special for Happy Days, and you would be perfect. You're the right age, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I am in college at this point. I'm in school. My parents are not going to let me out of that. But anyway, I got to audition for this show. I did not get it, but she told me, you've got to come back. You're a little, you're not quite seasoned enough. But of course, I didn't go out there thinking I was going to be auditioning with the Fonz and Donnie Most and all these people. And so it was a wonderful surprise. But once that got into my blood, that was it. So Coop, I had to get back there. And my parents said, you're not going back till you finish school. So that was a few years later. But I mean, I get it. They didn't finish college, so they were emphatic on all four of us doing that. And that was their dream. So we all did it. And then I got back out to LA to try my hand at acting. And I said, if something doesn't happen in a year, then I'll come back to New Orleans. And then I just started like doing sitcom after sitcom. I got involved in a comedy class of improv. I got several Happy Days I was cast on, and I really loved stand-up comedy. I mean, stand-up, I started doing stand-up as well, which was a hard time for women at that time, but I was convinced that I could do it, and I stuck with it, and I ended up headlining, which was great. But I've always loved comedy. I've always liked making fun of myself, and but I've always liked lifting women up. So anyway, Up All Night comes around, and I kept being told that I was too sexy to be funny or too this to be funny. And I'm like, that should have nothing to do with being funny. Funny is funny. It doesn't matter what you look like. But back then, in that era, they didn't know what to do with women. And that was before Me Too. And it was just a whole different era for women out there. Not as easy. Not that it's easy now, but it was really tough then. And so Up All Night was looking to cast over the top. They didn't say what, but they just wanted someone that would keep people watching those crazy films in the middle of the night on USA Network, and make them watch the films so they would watch the commercials, because that's paying the bills for USA Network, which ended up paying for Weird Science and Duckman and all the La Femme Nikita. So we were this little show that made a lot of money for the network. Got Gilbert Gottfried, God bless his soul, and myself. He was on Saturday, I was on Friday. So anyway, when I had the audition, I got the audition along with, they had hundreds of other women that auditioned, but I decided that I kept being told that I was too sexy. So I'm like, heck with this. I am going to go big and be sexy. I'm going to go for it, because I'm so tired of playing against it and like dressing down, and then I don't get those parts anyway. So I went in, big hair, low cut, much like the show ended up being. I plugged in my blow dryer. I was blow drying or pretending like I was blow drying my hair. And I didn't hear right away. And then 2 months later, I got the call that they said they love you. You're like, maybe they thought I was crazy. And then I had this wonderful director who was my first director named Tommy Lynch, producer, who did kids shows. And we were sitting in my kitchen in LA talking about how I saw this character. And I said, I see her childlike, not a child, but childlike. And she's full of wonderment. She's not stupid, but she's accepting of everything around her because she loves people. And I said, I think I want to say Up All Night so that people remember that, because it's a catchphrase and people like catchphrases.
Yep.
And that's how it was born. I came up with it, and we basically kept that character. And it's the same character I'm doing now, except I'm a little bit more of a mama bear. So I have surrounded myself with really young, fabulous actors, and we're going to make it a little bit more that there'll be some regular characters that come back on the show all the time. And we're wrapping around horror films now, but the parent company is Kings of Horror, which is on YouTube. They're a film distribution company, so they have several other channels on YouTube as well, and one's nostalgia, one's comedy. So they're going to experiment with us and put us on other channels and see that maybe we live on a couple of channels at the same time, or maybe we live better in the world of comedy. This is what's cool about streaming, is that I don't have to go through network executives, and we can just make this happen and put it up and see where it goes.
Yes. And you know what? And that's something I bet if we could have a time machine and we could actually find a 1985 DeLorean and go back in time and bring streaming back then, so many people would blow up back then, because
my gosh,
the talent was there in the 80s. It was.
Of course. Oh my God, there was no social media. I mean, there was none of that, no really internet. I mean, I had one of the first, I think, websites I was always entrepreneurial about trying to sell things.
Right.
But none of that. And this show would have been huge. I mean, it was huge, but it would have been insane.
Yes.
And I think that's what's going to happen on this one, because I've been talking to a lot. I mean, I've done probably about 70 different interviews since we started, which is amazing, with radio and print and a lot of podcasts, which I love. And so many people are your age, around your age, or a little older, and they are producing and directing themselves now. Yeah. So I've had a few people reach out to me to do films. So I did like 3 films in the last couple of years. So it's been fun for me, because it's not what I have to do to pay the bills anymore. But so it's like, feeds my soul. But now I went to a convention called FrankenCon in Knoxville, Tennessee, because I kept getting asked to go to these autographs, conventions, the cons. And I've never really done, I mean, I did a few way back in the day. And I know I know they make a lot of money for people, but I just really didn't have the time with my intimate apparel business, because that's what my husband and I do for a living.
We're going to talk about that later on, Ron.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we've been busy. We've been busy building, that. So we just didn't have time to do some of those fun things. But I went to FrankenCon with my husband, and we had a blast. And I had a line of fans, and I was like, what is going on? I haven't been around in years, and there's people that still love the show. And there's women asking me about bras, and guys are asking for my autograph. And so a gentleman came up and he goes, I work with a company called Kings of Horror. And have you ever thought about rebooting the show? And I'm like, all the time. And I said, we always do content. And we've thought about it, we've played with it, but we don't have the films. I'd have to find young filmmakers, and it'd be really hard. Not saying it can't be done, but it's just harder. Yeah. So they're a film distribution company. They have 15,000 titles. So we have their library, along with that. If I say, hey, can you get a trauma film that they may not have, they will go after it and try to get it for me. So it's this really beautiful marriage of this company having the films, and then my husband and I built a studio in the last 2 years, which is just serendipity too, because we had 2 big buildings. One was, we'll get into it, but one was my intimate apparel, one was our warehouse. And then we decided to start shipping out of LA. So we had this, we didn't want to sell it. It's an investment. We didn't want to sell this beautiful building that we had. So we decided to turn it into a studio, because Tampa Bay doesn't have that many studios, and then you have Orlando, which is packed, and then you have Miami, which is packed. So we're on the west coast of Florida, very centrally located, and so we decided to build a studio that was for television, film, podcasters, all things media. And
you're doing big things.
The next thing you know, we're producing our own show, and that's so cool.
That's what I'm talking about, Rhonda. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I still remember this from your very first episode, because I have a great memory. Because I remember, to me, it seemed like when you did your intro for your first show, and you was in that room, it kind of reminded me of like a Saved by the Bell-ish type deal. I remember you had your clothes in the background, the closet. I still remember that. You talked about you was gonna go. How did you say it? You went to Miss America pageant. You was supposed to, you made 49th. You would have been 50 if the person tracked her didn't start up Miss Idaho or something. I have a memory. I remember all of this stuff.
That's crazy. Let me say, I went to Miss Louisiana pageant. I came out 49th. I would have come out 50th, but Miss Iowa couldn't get the track to start of the talent contest. That's amazing. That's a joke I haven't said in gazillionaires.
Yes, I remember
That's
that.
Oh my gosh,
I
you
do.
do have a memory.
Yes.
Well, it was a bedroom set. And my husband and I and my crew, this incredible crew in Florida, recreated the set. The only thing is we didn't have a window on the set. We had a door, we had a balcony, we had the closet.
Hmm.
So we've added a window because we have the Snoopy landlord who's a perv. But he's funny, he's really funny. And then we added we have the closet. It looks very
Right.
similar. And then we just added a fireplace because we're doing a Christmas show. And we're like, well, we could use the fireplace for other shows. So it's this very sweet studio that will be reminiscent. And I'm sure we'll do some shows on location
Of
like we
course.
did back then. But right now the studio's so sweet because it's almost like a sitcom we're creating, a little bit more through stories, a little bit more story involvement and character involvement. And I'm just having a
Yes.
blast. I can't believe it this place in my age that I'm having a blast.
That's what I'm talking about. Now, Rhonda, did you have any mentors to help you out? I'm talking about when you first started. To help you out when you got into the industry.
It's really funny that you asked that because someone, and I never get asked that. Every now and then I'll say, who do I look up to? But my mentors were like anti-mentors, and
Mhm.
I'll tell you why. And explain that to you. Because I was always the girl, even going back to Louisiana. I started off shy, but I was always told, no, you can't do this. You can't do this. I mean, I ran for public office in New Orleans. I was a long time ago. I was the youngest and first woman to ever run in New Orleans. So youngest person and the first woman. So it was a long time ago, but very cool. But people would say, you can't do that. I almost won. I lost by 135 votes. And if I would have stayed in New Orleans, I would have definitely have run, who knows, for mayor at least. I don't know if I would have gotten into national politics, but definitely I was digging on that at the time. But I went to LA and my life changed. But so I get to LA and all I hear is, well, you can't be funny because you're too pretty, you're too sexy or whatever back in the day, So
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, don't tell me that I can't do stuff. It makes me insane. So there was a guy named Sammy Shore. His wife was Mitzi Shore. They're both passed, but they owned the comedy club. Then they got a divorce, but the comedy store rather. The comedy store is where everyone came out of on Sunset Boulevard. My name is still on the front, painted on the front. But Sammy Shore said, Rhonda, I'm being nice to you. You really need to go back to school and become a lawyer, or comedy's never going to happen for you. And boy, that made me so mad. I'm a Scorpio. Tomorrow's my birthday. And it's like, it made me so mad. And I'm like, I'm going to show him. And years later, when I was headlining, I had the chance, to say, Sammy, thank you. And he was very sweet, But I'm like, but I had a lot of those kind of people throughout my whole life. I was told, when I first got to LA, that I was going to stand out too much because it was just a different era of women, that they wanted you to meld in and be girl next door, whatever that was. And it was actually now, you couldn't be ethnic at all back then. I mean, you probably know that. You couldn't be anything. I mean, they were very specific. They wanted big boob blonde women.
Yep.
Either that to play bimbo, or they wanted milk toast, either mousy brunette, or that you just blended. That was like who was getting all the roles. And those I wasn't blending. I was the big boob blonde. So I started going out for those, and I was nailing those. Happy Days, all those shows.
Oh, yeah.
I was definitely playing those kind of characters. But they were like, you're going to stand out too much to ever get those roles. And it's true. I really didn't get those kind of roles. I mean, I would do better now because back then I was a brunette and they were telling me I was too ethnic. So I had to get a nose job. I got a nose job. It wasn't a big deal of a nose job. But I listened to all the stuff. My eyebrows, my mouth moved too sexy, crazy stuff that I was told in the industry. So I just decided to carve my own path. And so what I did, Coop, and you'll love this, is I put my blinders on, and there was gorgeous women out there and more talented and younger and more beautiful and everything. It's LA. But I just said, I'm going to do my own thing. And I've never been jealous. Thank goodness, I'm not jealous of beauty. I'm not jealous of talent because there's way more. And the cream rises to the top anyway. I've always like helping people. So I've always like surrounding myself with talented people because that makes me look better. Or like a lot of people like want to be around non-attractive people that aren't talented. I like being around people that lift you, you know?
That's right.
So, but anyway, so that was my story. It was not anyone specific that sat me down and said, you can do this. It was actually more
The
of you
situation.
can't. The only people who were really, I know this sounds so corny, but my parents were so behind me and so proud of me. And so I was so lucky to have parents that were like supportive and helpful. Lost my dad rather in my 20s, and that was sad because he was like my biggest fan. My mom too, both of them. But my mom did get to see me, you know, have Hollywood success, and then saw me marry my husband, who's my junior high school sweetheart, saw us start this business and saw it start to really rise. So at least she saw some of that. But they were definitely, I know it's kind of corny, but truly my biggest fans.
Yeah.
And of course, there's been people along the way. Now, I have to say, there was a network executive at USA Network named Kay Koplovitz. And Kay said, you're very talented. You're wonderful. We love you. And you have a great work ethic. I would hear things like that.
That's
And thank
good.
you for doing extra PR. And so those kind of people lifted me. But there was a lot of, you know, just jealousy along the way, people telling me I can't do it. So
No, I
so
get it.
I always tell, I know, I'm sure you do. You're handsome, you know, you're unique. And and unique people have to just go for it and not just crawl in. I tell young people, I speak in front of colleges a lot, not lately, but I was doing a lot of it for a while. And my big thing was, I mean, you have to go for it. If you have a product, you have to, don't say, I can't put it out there because someone else will steal it. I'm like, if you don't get it out there, someone else is going to get it out there.
There it
Believe in
is.
yourself, put blinders on, go for it. Never take no for an answer. And I know it sounds so corny, but it's so true.
No, it's true. It's true. And
It's so true.
I tell people all the time, Rhonda, it doesn't matter if you're in this industry or if you're a plumber. You be the best plumber you can be because I'm telling you, people want to reach out for you because they're gonna want your work and they're gonna want your service. And that's what's gonna happen. So I tell
That's
people
so
all the
true.
time, you have to keep going. And if you're
You
gonna be
have
in this
to.
industry, you got to have thick skin. If you can't take the word no, get out.
Get out.
Yes, because
You are
and
100% right.
and Rhonda, stop me if I'm lying. In this industry, 100 no's equals one yes. That's
Absolutely. Or maybe even
yes.
more.
Yeah,
Maybe
and
even
that's
more.
true.
And
Now,
you know what you need to be too is personable.
yes,
I mean, I probably could be better at that than, you know, you're younger, you're shy, or you're not going to say as much as you would as you're older, but you have to be personal and friendly and also appreciate the jobs you get. So I have a lot of young people nowadays
hmm,
and even younger than you, Coop, you know that they're like, I don't want this job. I don't want to do this. I don't, why
yeah,
do I have to come to work? Why do I even have, okay, so every contact I've ever made in my life, I'm nice to, I'm polite to. I've never had, I mean, there's a couple of moments, obviously, but for the most part, every experience I've ever had, I take and incorporate into my acting, and you end up using everything
yes,
down the line. Everything that you learn, you just soak it in and you use it, and especially with people. So years later, I'm going back and revisiting with directors and people that I worked with back in the day that are helping me and working with me again. So you don't burn a bridge,
yes,
appreciate work, be happy that you're getting paid, because even if you're working at a fast food place, you're going to take that. If you're going to be an actress, you're going to learn from that experience of how to deal with people and how to smile. And I mean, just don't put your head down and go into, I mean, young people I know sound a little old with this, but the young people today have bad attitudes. I don't know if it's hiding behind the phones or whatever, but just be personable and
that's true.
nice. That's it.
Yes,
You don't have to do a lot more than that.
you're right.
Um,
Now, speaking of that, though, Rhonda, let me bring this up because your attitude and the way you carried yourself took you a long way in your career. So you did over 450 episodes of the original Up All Night. Now,
I
here's a
did.
question I want to know myself. From 89 to 98, when you hit into the late 90s doing this show, was it just as fun as it was when you first started, or was it wearing off on you at the time?
It was just as fun. I think the only thing that was frustrating is that USA Network, for some reason, kept changing directors on me. Like, I think I had 7 directors through the years. I don't know what they were looking for. When I look back at these people I worked with, they were amazing. They all went on to do amazing things, or they were already doing amazing things. And so my character changed a little bit. So it would be a little frustrating to me. And then the show moved to New York. So for 3 years, I had to fly to New York, bank 4 shows. It did for 3 years. So the show had a different look then. It wasn't in the bedroom. It wasn't as sassy. And then I worked with Gilbert's producer and director, and I couldn't stand him at the time. Not him personally, but the way he took my character, because he made me more like Gilbert like. And now when I look at those shows, my humor being a little bit darker humor now, I think he was brilliant. But when I was doing them, he would put me in a clown suit. He would put me in a box. He would just do like, what are you doing to me? This is not the character that I created. That
I remember
love.
that.
Yeah, he did some crazy.
Yeah.
But when I look back, it was like some of the most fun in terms of me as an actress. It was really great. Marty and I have stayed in touch more than any of the other directors. So that part's really, again, like you learn through everybody.
Yes.
I learned through all of those directors. And now that we're producing the show, if anything, I need to push back so I can enjoy my acting experiences. I'm working with my writer. I'm coming up with the concepts. He and I are writing together. He's writing, but I'm literally coming up with all the concepts. So that's fun. So it's control, but I want to step back and be able to enjoy the acting experience. And so that's kind of hard when you're producing, because then you're like, oh my God, that light should be like that. And that should be like that. And this should be like that. And I don't want to be that. I want to just push away from that. And I think that this, like in the next 2 shows that we're doing, I have a director that's done a lot of films. And he's funny and he storyboarded everything. And I think it's going to be a great experience. I had to bring him back down though, because he grew up with the show too, but he remembered the show either being raunchy or what he wanted to make it. And I'm like, no, Joe, this show is not raunchy.
No, it wasn't.
I said, I can be, as a comic, I can be so dirty. I can out dirty anyone I can. But this show is not that. It is PG-13.
Right.
It's much like Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse or even like Svengoolie in a way, like all those horror hosts. It's like, it's innuendo, like innuendo's fine. Being sassy and with a wink is fine. Sexy girls on the set, fine. As long as we lift them and not make fun of them. We're never going to put girls in a place where we're, and especially now that I'm in the business I'm in, I embrace women even more so and want them to be comfortable and feel great about themselves. So, Rhonda, I'm just having the best time.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So, Rhonda, how can we know it's going to be on YouTube, but when can we actually see it?
Okay, well, you can actually go back and see the Halloween special right now. All you have to do is go to kingsofhorror.com or go on to YouTube and search Kings of Horror, and then just look for Up All Night, and we're right there. So you can definitely watch that show right now. And then on November 22nd, we drop our Thanksgiving show, and it's called Scream Queens Turkey Trot. I'm not going to tell you much about it, but it's hysterical. We're teaching girls how to be Scream Queens, but they're already Scream Queens, but it's a very, very funny show. We're really making it funny, which is really feeding my soul. Because I had a lot of male producers, and sometimes they wanted just as sexy, which was fine because it was working for me and it was working for USA Networks, and our rating was high, and I didn't mind it because I was still making fun of myself. But now I want it to be really funny and sassy too. So then the Christmas show, Thanksgiving is November 22nd at 10 p.m. Eastern on Kings of Horror. And then the Christmas show is December the 20th at 10 p.m. Eastern on kingsofhorror.com. And then we go every other week starting around mid-January. So we get 2 shows in January, and then we're every other week. We're hoping to do a live Valentine's show because we have the ability to go live, and we think that would be like a live dating game or something. I don't know yet. It's in the works, but that is kind of the magic of what I've been doing all these years is live shopping television. Live, being a headliner as a stand-up live. So, it's funny what you said. All those things, including Miss Louisiana and having to speak in front of people and go to the House and Senate in Louisiana and speak in front of when I'm a kid, speaking in front of the governor. all of those things led me to where I am in terms of my entrepreneurial business and public speaking and losing the fear of being on television live and getting up in front of an audience and getting heckled as a stand-up and learning to deal with that. And it's so funny. My husband, I would say, well, I miss LA, through the years. And he's like, but look what we've built and look at the house you're living in. And then I'm like, no, you're right. You're right. I could have been just still knocking on doors and waiting in the back of a comedy club. And I've had a lovely life with my high school sweetheart. And we've built a really lovely business which caters to women, which I love. So, but I don't think I could have done that without everything I did in LA.
You couldn't have. No, and that's what I'm saying. Your experience built it all up. Ladies and gentlemen, it's watching worldwide. Make sure you go to kingsofhorror.com. Not right now. You're watching this interview. After this interview, go to kingsofhorror.com. Click on Up All Night. Go watch it. If you have not had a chance to watch the original episodes, you can find them. Trust me, still out there. Go to YouTube. You should be able to find it anywhere. Make sure you watch it. Check her out. Rhonda is doing big things, people. The reboot is back. Up All Night is back. New generation that don't know about Up All Night, guess what? You about to be up all night watching Up All Night. I guarantee that. Now, Rhonda, you're doing, like I said, you just mentioned it, that entrepreneurial side of you that you actually have going on. So you have something that's called Rhonda Shear Intimates, and you have something that's called the Abra. Can you tell everybody about that?
Michael. Oh my gosh, you really did do your homework. Okay, so when you turned 40 back in LA back in the day, you were like dead. and you are, or at least that's what I thought. Now you could be J-Lo and be 55, 56 and be fabulous, or all these women. I'm so jealous. I'm not jealous of them. I'm jealous of the fact that I couldn't, that back then, really, they made you feel like at 40 you couldn't go on. And I'm glad to see that's changed. Like the fact that even people are reaching out to me to do parts in films. I had like a kissing scene with a 37-year-old. Well, not a scene, but I almost got to kiss him. But I mean, the fact that I'm getting cast in these fun roles is like so cool to me. But anyway, so I hit a certain age out there. I was like 41, and Up All Night was off just recently. I mean, what happened is the president of the network was just trying to save his job, so he canceled Gilbert and myself. He shouldn't have, but he did. But anyway, the network changed hands and things changed. So, but I had wonderful years on there. So wonderful years. But then, because I was so typecast into the character, the only mistake I made was calling myself Rhonda because I wanted name recognition. But people then thought I was this over the top character, and then I couldn't go back and play the milk toast characters that I was never going to get anyway. So for a little minute or two, like 6-7 months out, I'd go out on auditions and I wasn't getting anything. And that was so unusual because I was so used. I did get cast a lot. And so what I was doing was stand-up comedy and headlining and doing really, really well as a headliner. And lo and behold, out of nowhere, I'm single. I've never been married. I had long-term relationships, but I was very focused. And now, my mother, she's in New Orleans going, are you ever getting married? What are you doing? What are you doing? You have to, and I'm like, yeah, I do want to get married and maybe have a kid. I don't know. I don't have any children. And out of nowhere, my junior high school sweetheart writes me through classmates.com. And he broke my heart. And we met each other at 12 and 13. He broke my heart when he got mad at me at 16 and 17 because he got jealous of me because I was getting popular. But popular back then was like boys were trying to call me. It wasn't like now, but it wasn't like I was doing anything. But
Right.
He broke my heart. He's the only guy. I'm serious. We were really in love. I know that sounds crazy, but for that age, you're really in love. You're really connected. Anyway, he stayed in Louisiana. I moved out to LA. He came back to get me in his 20s, but he was seeing someone. He wanted to test the waters. I wouldn't see him. I went to LA. He got married, had 2 kids. Okay, so he's now divorced. He and his wife separated. He never cheated. He was a good boy. Mm-hmm. She left him because they got married young and they both went like that. Yeah, he's a strong man, and you have to be a strong woman. I mean, he's good for me because I walked over a lot of guys in my early days, but he's strong, and I love that. He's a man.
That's what
I love that. Like when we got back together, I was used to dating comics and they'd be fighting me to get in front of the mirror. But I go out with Van when we get back together and he's like, chopping wood and cooking for me and in the house that he built with his own two hands. I'm like, in Louisiana, I'm like, what is this? Ah! So anyway, long story short, we got back together through classmates.com. I tortured him for like 3 months because he broke my heart. And I just wanted to just like make out with him and then break up with him. But then I saw him, and are you ready for this? We eloped in 15 days.
15 days.
The spark was still there. That first kiss was electrifying.
No,
Electrifying.
Rhonda, that's not a spark. He poured gasoline on your butt and lit you on fire. That's not a spark. I'm sorry. He set you on fire. That's what that was.
It was
Big shout outs to
really,
him.
really cool. Van Fagan. He'll be home. He's going to knock on the door in a little bit. And I know my dogs are going to bark, but I'm going to keep going
It's
because
no
I have
problem.
my makeup artist is coming in from LA, and I know he went to get her at the airport. Thank gosh her plane made it in. But anyway, it was really magical. Seriously, it was really a magical moment. And the one thing about Van and I is that we both have that spirit of like putting stakes in it and going for it. So he had his own business at the time, but through the end of he was divorced over a year, but things were still being financially, his partners were messing with him. He ended up having to sell his business. Long story short, I'm on my phone, so I keep getting messages.
No,
But
you're
anyway,
fine.
so he ended up having to sell his business. I was off of the show that I was doing very well on, not like crazy Hollywood money, but a nice living for a single girl. So we both literally went here. We went from like living nice lives. He had his own businesses. He was a businessman to below zero. Seriously, I love telling the story because I wrote a book and I don't mind talking about it because it's in my book. But we both had to go bankrupt, and it was horrendous. I had like golden credit and he had golden credit, but we just couldn't keep up because he had payments for the child and the house and just stuff that happens after divorce. And I had credit card debt that he's the financial person. I'm the creative person. It works very well for us now because he's so good with that. He turns lemons into lemonade. So as my mother would have said back in the day, we didn't have a pot to pee in except for a few savings that we had when we started our company. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, we need to work together and make up for lost time. I always wanted to do intimate apparel because it's so uncomfortable and I spent a lot of time in it and up all night. I love designing, even though I didn't major in it. I just love it. I've always just had a knack for design. So he started a website for me. We reached out to Home Shopping Network within about the first year that we were married. And because we're doers, we're not going to sit around and not make money.
Right.
We're going to crawl. No one would touch us like a bank because, first of all, we had to go bankrupt. Secondly, we were never in the apparel business. He was a businessman in software. I was an actress. They're like, no, I don't think so. I don't think we're going to give, no. And then we went to a couple of friends, and I had a friend who was very wealthy, and I'm like, you could help us, blah, 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 loan, whatever. And he's like, if I loaned you money, then I would own your receipts, and you don't want that. And by the way, if someone tells you they could help you, and if something sounds too good to be true, usually it is too good to be true.
That's true.
So you guys are going to make this on your own. So we put our little money in, and then we ended up on Home Shopping Network, and we sold out the first time, and we did really well. And they like, when can you be back? And I'm like, now. And my husband's like, we need product first. I'm like, I'm an actress. I just want to be on TV. But slowly but surely, we would make the money and put it back in. Make the money, put it back in. And then we started working with factories that were small like us, that did, even without a credit line, worked with us and little. And just also relationships, making those relationships, working with people, having the trust back then, handshakes, with us. And it was very cool. And until finally, we get to a certain point, the Abra is like kicking butt. And we designed that out of Canada, and it's doing really well. And my husband says, we should do an infomercial. I'm like, an infomercial on a bra? Because this is like the capital of infomercials. So we did the infomercial. Hey, nope. We did the infomercial. It blew up. We sold 35 million of them worldwide. It became the best-selling infomercial of all time, the best-selling bra still to this day. And it wasn't that seamless bra wasn't out there in the market. It was in little bits in the junior market, but no one had ever marketed it the way we did. So that's why I tell people we were the first to get it there, but we weren't the first to create this technology. The
I get you.
technology was there.
I get
So,
you. So, Rhonda, what is the best way for everyone to follow you on social media?
okay, the best way to follow me right now is go to Rhonda Shear Up All Night or RhondaShearUpAllNight.com. That's for all things Rhonda. If you want to go to rhondashear.com, you can find my intimate apparel, just my intimate apparel there. But for Rhonda Shear Up All Night, but you can certainly follow me on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all those goodies. We're everywhere. And please come and watch us on November the 22nd and December the 20th on Kings of Horror on YouTube.
Nice, nice. Rhonda, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. And I would love to have you back on in the future.
Oh, I would love to come back on. I would love to. Please let me come back after we've been rolling a little bit and talk more entrepreneur things and all things, because I think I can give a lot of information to a lot of people about how to make it in life.
That's what I'm talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, make sure you check out Rhonda Shear. Check her out Up All Night. Check out her entrepreneurial site. Check out everything she's doing. Ladies, get the bra. Get it. You know what to do. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my next guest on the Big Scoop with Coop is, you know I'll announce my next guest. You better follow me on Instagram at the Big Scoop with Coop to keep up with the latest and greatest. Until the next time, people, on the Big Scoop with Coop. Peace.